He's probably coming for breakfast because he knows people like me sleep in, and he'll be in and out before I wake up. Unfortunately for him, the Fayette Democratic women never sleep. So the Fayette Democratic women are planning to be in attendance on the sidewalk in front of Pinewood at 7 o'clock next Friday to make their views on Mr. Kemp's policies known to him. If you want to join them, please come on out. They're having a sign-making ceremony, sign-making activity this Wednesday at 6:30 at the headquarters, and then get your walking shoes on, come on out Friday morning, protest for the governor, and exercise your rights as an American. And the last thing I've got is next Saturday, the 20th, we're having Earth Day here in Fayette County. It's located at the Ridge Nature Area, 390 Birch Road. FCDC has a booth. I'll be out there starting at 8:30 to set up. The event starts at 9:30 and goes to 1 p.m. Always looking for volunteers. So if you want to go back, come outside, spend a little time in nature, meet some friendly people, expose the county to the fact that there are lots of Democrats in the place, let me know and I'll be happy to have you. Thank you. My favorite event of the month, Thursday, the last Thursday of April. I can't recall the date, but it is the last Thursday in April from 5 to 7 p.m. We're going to have this one at the Applebee's, right over here on 85, next to Chuck E. Cheese. Okay?
I'm going to call. I'm going to send this in this. But I'll call. Okay, great. Just got a note about the results from the last fundraiser. You want to come up and present it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we had a phenomenal opportunity to engage in a really unique scenario. So fundraising is an ongoing opportunity for us to spend the time and effort to do what we are all here to do, which is get Democrats elected to public office. I mean, that's really the purpose of this organization. The other things we do are ancillary. The primary and really the only thing that, just like the General Assembly is only supposed to be doing the budget, and they wind up doing a whole lot of other things anyway. We're only supposed to be electing Democrats to office. All the other things we do are just gravy to that. So to get Democrats elected, we've got to raise money. And so we had this really neat idea, it was mine, to do a beer bash at Lion Creek Brewing Company during March Madness. And it turned out to be a really fun event. We had about 75 people come out and enjoy some really good beer. So if you haven't tried it yet, go visit Lion Creek Brewery in Peachtree City. They were very nice to us. They were very complimentary. And we set out with a modest goal. But before I even mention what our goal was, I'd like for everybody who worked on the committee to please stand up. Everybody who worked on the fundraising committee, please stand up. Everybody who worked on the Thank all of you for your time, effort, and consideration. And for those of you who came and bought items, we appreciate your contributions and your generosity. For those of you who bought items and have not yet paid for it, we'll be taking collections in the back with Ed. So there are a few people who bid on items and had to leave early. I think that's what happened. They had to leave early, and so your items are here. And so if you have not yet paid, please make sure to do that. So our goal was to raise about $3,000, and here's what we did. We had about $1,700 that we collected in auction items that were purchased. We collected $210 in donations, and we had $600 in entry fees. So people who came, except for the committee members, paid an entry fee to get in and kind of be a part of this event. So net, we will generate, when those people who have not yet paid their final portion, will net $2,824.47 roughly. So a big thanks to Chandra Wright for being sort of the whipping person. All that stuff. She did videos. She was out there doing what Chandra does and being the effort-vested person that led this effort. So thank you all for your help. And if anybody wants to make a little bit more of that, I guess $168.
Yeah, we got some unsold items that didn't sell, but they're fabulous.
Yes, so about $3,000 goal. There's still an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was just a reminder, another part of our fundraising efforts is the sellable Democratic items there in the back. We got t-shirts, we brought caps. What else did we bring? Oh, and we got water bottles in the back. So please see Garrett, raise your hand, Garrett. And he's in charge of the sales there. So please, if you don't have your shirt, or even if you have a shirt, if you need another shirt, then they're sold in the back. Just a couple of announcements before we. Oh, is there a representative from FDW? Yes, come on.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I get to serve on the Program and Activities Committee for Fayette Democratic Women, and I just wanted to put out a reminder that on next Saturday at 1 o'clock, we're going to have our Fayette Democratic Women's meeting at Heritage Bank, and Sarah Riggs-Amico, who ran for Lieutenant Governor in 2018, is going to be our speaker. She's going to be talking about voting irregularities in the last election, as well as women's rights and what we need to do moving forward. So definitely come out for that.
Great. Thank you.
Also, yeah, just another plug to show up for the sign making party next Wednesday. It's going to be great. Karen is going to be leading that, and to be out on Friday at 7 a.m. Before Primewood Studios to let everyone know.
Thank you. Okay, as we order our breakfast and enjoy our breakfast, be mindful that we have a program called IHOP, I Eat, I Tip. So please be mindful of our servers. They do a great job, and we're great partners with IHOP, and we certainly do appreciate your generosity. On April 27th from 11 to 12 p.m. at headquarters, if you're a new member, if you joined us from January up until today, we actually have a Fayette Democratic new member orientation. And at that meeting earlier that day, actually, we have our leadership. And so if you want to know the inner workings and our vision and our mission for Fayette County, please attend. I sent out invitations, but if I missed you, if you'd like to come anyway, you are certainly welcome. That's on Saturday, April 27th from 11 to 12 at headquarters. The other notice is that Mother's Day is coming up. And our next meeting happens to be the day before Mother's Day. And we have decided to partner and support our sister organization called Promise Place. And if you're not familiar with Promise Place, they exist to prevent domestic violence through awareness programs, educational training, providing safe environments for the victims and their families, utilizing legal advocacy, emergency shelters, and transitional housing. They provide comprehensive domestic violence services to Fayette County, Spalding, Pike, and Upson counties. And so we've chosen to honor the mothers supported by Promise Place on this 2019 Mother's Day. And so their needs, and we have put their needs on the website, but if you would like to bring those items at the next meeting, we'd be glad to accept them, and then together we will arrange a date for delivery. But their immediate needs at this time are cold cereal, pasta sauce, canned fruit, canned chicken, canned tuna, rice, water bottles, coffee, ketchup, mayo, mustard, snacks, 13-gallon trash bags, pod laundry detergent, dish detergent, Clorox wipes, paper towels, and black hair products. So if you would like more information, you can find us on www.gafayedems.org, and you click on the link, Promise Place, and you should be able to find those items in detail detail them. We are honored today to have two great speakers. And the first gentleman is going to cover what's happening locally in Fayetteville. And the second gentleman is going to cover the challenging session that he had at the state level. And if you would join me in honoring our first guest speaker, Fayetteville Mayor, Reverend Ed Johnson.
Well, good morning, Fayette County Democrats.
Good morning.
I am so delighted and excited to have been invited to come and give you an update on the city of Fayetteville and what's going on in the city of Fayetteville. There are some great things, but first of all, let me congratulate and commend the Fayette County Democratic Party for all that you're doing. I've been a long-standing member of the FCDC, and over the last few years, I have been extremely proud and excited about making a tremendous impact in turning not only the county, but also the state of Georgia blue. So give yourselves a round of applause. And I'm also glad that they allowed me to go before my fraternal brother, the Honorable State Representative Derrik Jackson. I know that all that's going on under the dome, he could probably take an hour or two or even more. So I'm glad he allowed me to come and get out the way first so he comes, okay? So first of all, let me say that, second of all, let me say that there's a metamorphosis going on in the city of Fayetteville. A metamorphosis primarily precipitated by Pinewood Studios coming into the city of Fayetteville, and then all of those things associated with it, such as Pinewood Forest. But also the fact is that there's been a tremendous demographic shift in the city of Fayetteville. The Atlanta Regional Commission has just put out a survey about 7 months ago that predicted that the city of Fayetteville in 2040 will have a population increase. We're currently at 17,900 based upon the latest census. But by 2040, they're predicting that the population of Fayetteville will be 32,000 citizens. Wow. So that's almost a 100% increase in residents moving into the city of Fayetteville. And I want you to know that the city council and the staff of the city of Fayetteville, we are making sure that we are being proactive and not reactive in the managing of that growth. The city's motto, if you're not familiar with it, is a history with a future. A history with a future. But we believe that the most important part of that motto is that we are moving towards having a great future in the city of Fayetteville. We intend to be progressive-minded as well as open-minded, providing economic development and a variety of housing options while continuing to improve the quality of life for all citizens in Fayetteville. We are being intentional in working with stakeholders in our city to ensure that the growth is sustainable and our development plans are realistic and viable to make Fayetteville a city where citizens and residents can be proud of. For the past 3 years, I've given a State of the City address. And it has been posted on our website and our Facebook page. And if I would invite each and every one of you, if you have time, while you're just sitting down, perhaps watching television or scrolling through your computer, checking out your emails, please go to our website, especially the latest one where I gave a very positive outlook on the city of Fayetteville and what we are doing and how we are going to manage the growth that's taking place in the city of Fayetteville. Today, I'm going to just give a very brief synopsis of what's happening in the downtown area. I'm sure many of you, and let me see by a show of hands, how many of you actually live in the city of Fayetteville? Okay, good number of you. And I'm sure as even those who do not live in the city limits drive around, you see the tremendous growth and development that's taking place in the city of Fayetteville. And a lot of people call and ask, well, what's going here? What's going there? And we will be glad to answer that. So if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to call our staff at City Hall. They're glad to inform you of what's going on. And again, there's some very positive things going on. but we have been focusing primarily on development of the downtown area. We have traveled all over the state of Georgia, visiting some cities that are doing some very positive things in their growth, and we have embraced some of the best practices from those cities. We have also traveled to Greenville, North Carolina. I had the privilege of sitting down and talking to Mayor Knox and picking his brain and understanding that the city council has got to be courageous about moving the city forward. Even sometimes when we meet opposition, we need to understand and balance that opposition against what are the needs of the citizens of the city. So I will give you a brief, and if you can direct your attention to the screen, and I know not everyone can see it, but I'm going to run through this slideshow rather quickly. But if you have any questions, again, you can ask me briefly afterwards the presentation, or you can give us a call at City Hall. I am always accessible. That's one of the things I pride myself on, is being an accessible mayor. On my business card, I have my personal cell number. So people, when they want to get in touch with City Hall, if they can't reach City Hall directly, they can always call me. And I assure you, I always answer the phone, and I always get an answer to their question. So, all right. The City of Fayetteville annually does a strategic planning session. We have a retreat every year, and our latest retreat was held in February, and this is the vision statement that we've come up with. Fayetteville shall be a city of innovation and opportunity that fosters a vibrant and welcoming community for all. Again, I talked about the changing in the demographics. We welcome all citizens. The indicators are that our fastest growing population are the baby boomers, those of us who are 60 or over, okay? How many 60 or overs do I have in here? All right, I can see it. My mother reminded me, she said, just wait till you live long enough. And I'm at that point now, so I thank God for that. But we recognize that, so a lot of you have noticed that we've been particularly paying attention to providing housing for our seniors, hardest senior aging development, as well as Hartside, which is an apartment complex that should be opened up in late spring or early summer. That's 55 years and older. And if you've not visited those places, these are quality housing for seniors that provides a lot of amenities for seniors. So we're focusing on that. But we also recognizing that the fastest leaving population are the young generation, you know, the 25s to 40. And so we're focusing on making sure that we provide attractions, amenities, and all of that to bring families back to Fayetteville. Our mission statement is to provide efficient and effective municipal services. That's what we have been focusing on since I became the mayor, is to make sure that our customer service relationship is one that is of primary interest to our staff, that they make sure that they respond to the citizens' needs and the citizens' requests. Our strategic planning, we came up with some focus for the next 5 years. The focus is to invest in transportation. Ladies and gentlemen, don't get excited. This is not talking about mass public transportation. Okay, I know people have a need and a desire, and we're going to be working on that. But we're looking at our transportation nodes, such as trails, bike trails, and that, walkable communities. And so we're focusing on transportation. We also want to develop an economic opportunity. We've got some great opportunities out on the west end by Pinewood Studios, lots of land that's available. How many of you realize that Fayetteville was second in the competition to get the Facebook data center? Okay, we were second. Unfortunately, we lost out because the city that got the Facebook data center was pad ready. They had sewer and all of that. We'd have to install all of that, and the company Facebook was not ready for us to delay the time that they wanted to build the data center. But we are being very competitive in the world of economic development. We want to protect and grow our infrastructure. We have an aging wastewater treatment plant. And thank you for all of those who voted for the SPLOS this past election cycle. Because of the SPLOST, we now have the funds to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant and to expand it so that we can be able to accommodate the future growth in the city of Fayetteville. We want to improve neighborhoods. We are having lots of discussion with homeowners associations to go back into some of the older neighborhoods and try to do a weekend to upgrade things like lighting and maintain the roads and the infrastructure within those neighborhoods. And so we've been focusing on that very intentionally. Some of the neighborhoods have been a part of our LMIG program, where we are now resurfacing the roads in the subdivisions that are in dire need. And so we're being intentional. Efficient and effective government. This is one of the things that I brought forth that I thought was critical for us. Any government needs to be responsive to its citizens. And if we are not efficient in responding to you, then we are not being the government that you need us to be. We again went out with a national survey to all of the citizens of Fayetteville. The survey looked at 8 facets of the community to include safety, mobility, economy and natural environment, built environment, the education in our city. And again, we worked very closely with our stakeholders at the Fayette County Board of Education, Dr. Barrow. We have monthly meetings with them and to find out, especially for those schools that's within the city of Fayetteville, how can we work in a cooperative nature with them. And we have partnership with Fayette County High School, Bennett Mill Middle School, and Cleveland and the other elementary schools that assist them. The respondents who answered through the survey rated these facets based upon 3 pillars of the community. They wanted community characteristics, governance, and participation. And I will emphasize participation, again, has been one of my principal mantras, is that we need to get citizen involvement. We are a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. How can we be an effective government if we don't include the people in the decision-making process? So under the leadership, we have emphasized citizen engagement. We have citizens now sitting on 5 different committees that have been formed to include Public Safety Committee, our Budget Development Committee, and more recently our Downtown Planning Committee. And we have invited citizens constantly to check out our website and find out when there's other opportunities for you to come and to be engaged in the city's decision making. Of course, the most primary reason that you can be engaged, attend City Hall council meetings, okay, at City Hall. We'd love to see you there. Know how your government operates and see us in action. So please, if you can, attend periodically, come to our city council meetings. Again, the survey took 1,600 surveys that were mailed out. Only 6% were returned. However, we then went out and on the website, we also had citizens complete online survey. And as a result, we now have a good response to those surveys. We want to create a vibrant and diverse community in downtown to act as the catalyst for the we want to facilitate a safe, fun, and create a climate that promotes higher paying jobs. How many of you appreciate the fact that you can find a job in Fayetteville that is at least the median income level, if not higher? That's what we want to attract. Businesses that's going to give opportunities for our citizens to be employed that will give them a reasonable income level that they can continue to appreciate the quality of life and the forward housing in Fayetteville. Again, our transportation objectives is to prioritize projects that support a more walkable downtown. We did a comprehensive plan rewrite last year, and we invited citizen engagement. We had several town hall meetings, and we took inputs from the citizens, and we kept hearing, we want a walkable, viable downtown community, and we're working on that as a part of our transportation plan. We have been working with the county. We have formed a county transportation advisory board to also include the other municipalities, Peachtree City, Tyrone, the county, as well as the city of Fayetteville. We want to prioritize in creating a more of a grid system in the downtown area. How many of you find it very difficult to navigate when you come in during peak hours through the downtown area? Traffic is a mess. Thank God you're not in Peachtree City. But let me tell you that we have been very proactive in communicating with GDOT, the mayors, and I will tell you right now that when I became the mayor, the first thing I did was I called all the mayors together to include those from Brooks and Woozy, and now all of the mayors in Fayette County, we meet together once a month for breakfast, and we talk about common issues. And as a result, we're now, aligned to make sure that we all in agreement. And we went down to GDOT and we had a very sincere conversation with them, and we made them aware of the fact that the traffic congestion in our cities has to be something that they give top priority to work with us. But we are going to be, yes, thank you. We are going to be, once again, my word is intentional, about making sure that we create a grid system, and you'll see that in our downtown master plan. Again, housing objectives, I'm going to run through this rather quickly, is to provide affordable, workforce affordable housing. Okay? When people hear the word affordable, they always think Section 8, low-income housing. That is not what we are intentional about doing. We want to make sure we provide affordable housing for everybody's needs, a variety of types of housing. And you're going to see one that we have met with some opposition on in this, and as I do the downtown presentation. Our land use goal is to make downtown Fayetteville more vibrant and walkable. I've said that multiple times. Please get that in your spirit, because that's what the citizens have told us time and time again. They want a more vibrant, walkable downtown, and a place where you can come and not only bring your children and enjoy yourself, but come and find even some nightlife in the downtown area. All those who just say yeah, please be at the next meeting, where we're about to roll our open container ordinance, so that people can walk in the downtown area, going to a concert, walk in the streets. And if you want to go to one of the local establishments that serve alcohol, you have the right to walk around with an open container that meets our restrictive conditions. Okay. Now, for all of those who are Catholic and y'all looking for wine, okay, the liquor stores are going to be coming soon, but not immediately. So, this is our downtown master plan. If you don't mind, let me get through this because I know my brothers. This is our downtown master plan that was designed in 2016. We sat down with a bunch of local architects and said, how can we create a downtown that is going to be inviting to citizens and, of course, be able to help us relieve the traffic? So they came up with this design of a grid system with renovating the downtown area so that it will be more inviting and attractive to those who want to come to take advantage of the Zach Brown Amphitheater activities there. We're still making progress. And for those of you who've already seen the lineup for our summer concert series, please be patient with us, okay? I know a lot of it, the genre is mostly country western. We're in the process of changing that, okay? So you would feel comfortable coming down and hearing some of the genre of music that you appreciate, okay? Again, in 2016, we engaged a consultant firm called TSW, and they helped us complete a plan that will be able to be executed to make sure that the downtown plan is going to be realistic. Again, they advise us to acquire and to focus on three main areas. The area between State Road 85 and Lafayette, which is that big piece of property right by the Red Wine House, right on the corner of Lafayette Avenue across from Arby's. Okay, if you're not aware, that property has been sold to a developer, the same developer who developed La Meridian Lafayette Apartments on Sharon Drive. And that building, that complex, when it first opened up, and since then has always maintained a 97% occupancy rate. Okay, so for people who say there's no needs for apartments, and let me tell you, they're not cheap. One bedroom starts at $1,100. Okay, so we attracted people who are the affluency and the income level that can afford to live in those type of apartments. But that's going to be another 228 apartments right on the corner of Lafayette. That's Pod A. And then we're looking at redeveloping the tavern area. And I'll show you what we're calling this. It's a German term called the Wunderf, which means it's a promenade where you can come and you can walk and you can enjoy yourself. And then we focus on Pod C, which is what we have acquired from the Fayette County Board of Education. We bought the Board of Education headquarters building. That's 10.5 acres of property. That was the former Fayette County High School property with their bus barn and a gymnasium. And we found both those buildings to be sound, engineered structurally. And as a result, we're going to convert those and have a private-public partnership with those. This is our new City Hall project. Our first inclination and attempt was to acquire the Fayette County Administrative Complex. Is everybody aware of that building? We would hope that it sits right in the smack middle of downtown Fayetteville. We would hope we would have been able to convince the county commissioners and the county officials to move over to the Justice Center, where there's lots of property still over there, and sell us that building and have us tear it down. They refused to negotiate, or at least reasonably negotiate. They wanted an exorbitant price for the building. We said thank you, but no thank you. We then initiated a conversation with the Board of Education and purchased their property of 10.5 acres. So, as most of you can orientate yourself, this is Highway 54. This is the Stonewall side. And this is where the City Hall is going to be located. We are in the final stages of getting architectural designs. We've already agreed upon the floor plan. We initially started out with a 3-story building. We now will have a 2-story building, and I'll show it to you in the concept plan, and hopefully you can appreciate all of the citizen input that we've received. We also want to focus primarily on providing quality of life facilities for the citizens. This is all of set up for citizen engagement. Okay, this is a village on the green, we call it. This is going to be a small park with a small amphitheater for a small venue concert. And then all of this is park space for young people right in here. Okay, we have a splash pad designed for young people, and we have walkable trails around what is originally a detention pond, but it is also going to be a nice water feature, again, for collection of detention and retention water. And move a little quicker, because I know my brothers, oh, you eating, oh Lord, just take my time, okay?
He speaks a long time. You gotta get his mouth for it now.
Again, to orientate you, we think now we have agreement from the Fayette County Board of Commissioners. We had 2 options on this plan. We're going to put a road that comes around all the way around the City Hall and the park area and come out on this way. We had 2 options: to put a 9-foot retaining wall right along this road that will separate the library from the city, what we call it the City Center Complex. We think we have the agreement from the County Board of Commissioners. We just met with them, and we're now not going to put a retaining wall. What we're going to do is to open this up and put a road through so that citizens will be able to move from the library to the park, from the park to the library, and have greater use of the library. Because most people tell me, most people tell us that many people don't know where the library is, okay? And so we want to expose the library. We think it's a win-win situation for both the city and the county. We had a little bit of trouble convincing them, but think now that the County Board of Commissioners are on board. Okay, just real quickly, this is what we hope the green area will be looking like, okay? Okay, a very nice park for you to come and read and, you know, do work on your computers. And that's the park area right in the center, right behind City Hall. This is another part of the area for the kids. Again, we had want to make sure we include a water feature, and we're not sure whether or not we'll have this fountain style or whether we're going to have a splash pad, but we're still working with the architecture to make sure we use best use of the facilities that's available, especially with water. And again, proposed water feature on the west side for the kids. and walking trails along the back of the park. And of course, we don't have that many pine trees yet, but we will be planting a lot of trees back there. This is the design of the new City Hall. And again, now we have moved from a 3-story structure to a 2-story. We think we can operate and expand our staff with a 2-story building. And to cut the cost a little bit, it got a little bit more expensive than we intended it to, and we wanted to make sure that the features and the design was something like this that would allow the citizens to come. It is going to be a community space, as you can see. Let me go back. Up top, we hope to have a community space where you can come and have community activities outside if necessary. We will also make it available for the citizens to use because we'll have a community room as well. These are some other designs that we rejected, didn't particularly care for them, didn't think it fitted in with the architectural design of the downtown area. And of course, because it's so close to the downtown area, we have some architectural standards that we try to comply with. And of course, the red brick in the downtown, this one was a little bit too excessive for us, so we rejected that one. All right, we also have acquired the Lester property, which is directly across the street between Lanier and Stonewall. We have not decided what we're going to do with that yet, but we are negotiating with private partnerships to try to bring in some potential breweries, microbreweries, or restaurants to the downtown area, and also make this a walkable space so that you can walk from the downtown with a walkway from the downtown all the way to that particular piece of property. We also believe that we have an influencing in the older apartments that's right in the corner right here of Tiger Trail, and try to influence them to upgrade the apartments and renovate them to improve the quality of the facilities there as well. And this is the Woonif. This is the area right behind Twisted Taco and the Courthouse Tavern. We're in agreement with them to build out this back of the space and to have what we believe is going to be a nice attraction to the downtown area, and that is to have this promenade right behind the Twisted Taco in this area. Okay? So we're moving very diligently with engaging private partnerships so that the city does not have to bear the expense in all of these renovations, but we believe it's going to come to fruition. The biggest question people have been asking is, why do we have all of the apartments coming? Again, there is a need for apartments, okay? We need to provide the type of housing for not only the younger families, okay, but also some of us who are aging who want to downsize, okay? Be honest. We believe Hartside and Hardis is a good start, but we also know that many of us, like me, 60 years old, I like to be around 30, 40-year-old because I get some energy from them as well. So we believe that these two apartment complexes that we move forward with, the developers are extremely high-end developers. How many of you have ever been up to the Cobb County area and seen the Walton projects? The Walton projects are extremely high quality, and so we've engaged with them. They have worked very diligently in compromising. A lot of the residents on Grady Avenue constantly complain about traffic, okay, and adding to the traffic. Mr. David Knight of Walton Communities Development have worked time and time again in redeveloping his plan to make sure that we have a grid system, that everybody who's leaving in the morning to go to work, which is not going to be everybody in the apartment complex, but those who are leaving will not exit all on on Grady. But we're going to have a bypass where you can cut across Beauregard and immediately get on to State Road 85, going north or south. And I don't have that diagram, but this is the quality apartments. This is mixed use. It is residential over commercial. The commercial initially is at the bottom floor and all the residential at the top. They have just recently submitted their final plans, elevations and everything, and so we're moving forward. Hopefully in the next few weeks, you'll start seeing the land disturbance and them start clearing out the land on Lafayette and State Road 85. Again, this is what it's going to look like when it's all put together. As you can see, we've established a grid system so that everybody will not be entering and exiting onto Highway 54 to 85. This piece of land, we believe, is in negotiation, and we're asking the developer to make sure that they develop a roadway system that's going to direct the traffic onto Highway 54 instead of coming this way onto 85 and Highway 54. And that's what it looks like as the overlay of the Walton communities. Again, Walton was very compromising. He could have built up in this area, but because we got a lot of complaints from the citizens that live on Grady Avenue, he decided to leave this piece of property vacant. This is the, whose family property is this? It'll come out in a senior moment. But the family who owns this property have a wonderful botanical gardens that was established by the family here, and as a result, he is going to leave that as green space, additional park space, and of course, this is a stream running through, and they're going to make that very attractive for people who like to do walking trails. And this is what his proposal elevations look like, and you can see similar to what is being proposed at Lafayette in 85. And some more elevations. And this is a piece of property that he developed out in the Woodstock. Again, we've been out there several times to see the progress, and it is a quality development out there. They have so many nice amenities for their residents, and a variety of design styles for the homes. In addition to the 3-story apartments, they have, as you can see, a lot of replanted landscape, and the promise is they will do the same thing in Fayette, plant a lot of trees, and this is what it looks like. And all of the amenities that they put in, wonderful community pools, and the areas for people to come in, walk their dogs, dog parks, reading spaces, parks for kids. All right, I knew I was a little longer than anticipated, but again, I thank you for listening. I will entertain any questions briefly before my brother comes up. Yes, ma'am.
What's happening with the pavilion?
We are working diligently with the management of the pavilion. We are looking, and we have several ideas to upgrade. We're also working on attracting some more higher-end retailers there, but we're also looking at changing the zoning for the pavilion and perhaps making it O&I, and we've been in negotiations with Southern Crescent Technical College. They would like to move and have some bigger classroom studio spaces in the pavilion area, so we're having those discussions. Nothing I can say has been concrete yet. Yes, ma'am.
Aren't you up for re-election this year?
Oh, Darryl, did I pay you? I didn't pay you well. I tend to be a little humble, but yes, ma'am, I am up for re-election, and I am up for re-election this November, and I hope for those of you, especially who live in the city of Fayetteville, believe I've served the city well with my leadership. I think we have a very cooperative and collaborative city council, and I would love another 4 years to make sure that City Hall come to completion. And then after that, I'm sorry, I won't run again. My wife says she's retired twice, or actually 3 times now, and she's ready to retire and go driving into the sunset in our RV. So I'll stay for 4 more years, but after that, I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
Parking?
Parking. Yes, ma'am. A lot of the parking we are looking at working with GDOT to, especially for the apartments in the downtown area, that is going to be open parking for people in the downtown area. We're also looking at revamping the parking around the square to make that, instead of parallel parking, angle parking, so we can get more parking spaces in there. And of course, all of that needs to be approved by GDOT, and we're working very closely with them. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I voted for you once, I voted for you again, but I'm still worried about Grady Avenue.
Understand.
Too much traffic down there.
Well, again, we think that we have a plan that will mitigate the traffic on Grady. again, we've had surveys after surveys, traffic study after traffic studies, and all indications are while there will be a slight increase on Grady, you know, the apartments that's going to be built, the Walton community will not directly access onto Grady. In fact, there's no road currently in the construction plans to exit the apartment residents onto Grady. Everything is going to come to Beauregard. Everything is going to come towards Highway 54.
We are live streaming, and there's a question that came in, and I want to make sure that we ask that question. Lauren, what is?
There was about 3 of them, actually.
There's 3?
One was, there's been some rumors about a helipad.
Okay. Another controversial issue, ladies and gentlemen. There's a piece of property off of Pine Trail, right behind the Office Depot. It's Pine Trail, and there's a big piece of property back there, and the property owner sold it to a medical evacuation, air evacuation company. And they have requested to be able to be allowed to put in a helicopter pad so that they could be in close proximity to Piedmont Hospital, because they need at least a maintenance center and a residential center for their on-call medics and helicopter pilots. Initially, the citizens complained because first, we did not advise all the citizens that this was coming before planning and zoning. I immediately called it back up, which means basically the mayor has says we're rescinding the planning and zoning decision and we want to investigate it more. One, because we want to make sure all the citizens have the opportunity to get as much information about the project. Two, we wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence in making sure their complaints about fuel being released from the helicopters as they're coming in, the noise that's going to be created as a result of the helicopters, and we frankly convinced the company to do a demonstration. They flew in a helicopter, and the helicopters that they use are super quiet, okay? They do not dump fuel, and they have agreed to create the approach pattern that they will not surface around the residents' community. It's about 80 homes back there. The citizens was an outcry. We proved to them that there was not the impact that they said that there would be. People complain, well, I've had a heart attack, I've had heart surgery, just the noise of the vibration of the helicopter. This is a super quiet helicopter. The same helicopter that they plan to put at this helipad, they brought down and demonstrated to us. And we were impressed with the fact that they were willing to do that, but we also mitigated or negated the complaints that the citizens had. And so we, the city council, approved for the helipad to be constructed back there.
Okay, another question is what's being done to attract better restaurants to the community?
We are being very proactive about that. I've been constantly on the phone with restaurant headquarters. I've been constantly in touch with Papados, with my most recent conversation has been with the headquarters. How many have ever been to Louisiana Bistro? Okay, nobody's been to Louisiana Bistro? Okay, a wonderful New Orleans cuisine restaurant. One has been in East Point. They are now finishing the design and the construction of the one in Buckhead, and they are very open-minded to consider coming down to Fayetteville. We also work with other restaurants. For those of you who do not know and probably have questions about what's going on in that big plot of land right directly across the street from Aldi's. Okay, we have negotiated that is going to be retail on the front side. We are going to have a Freddy's hamburger, a Chipotle restaurant, and potentially another fast food. We don't know at this time what we call, I guess fast food is not the word we like to use, but quick service, thank you. You should run for politics. So, but all of that development is intentional for us to attract, okay? A lot of people complaining about the discount stores, okay? The Dollar Generals, the Family Dollar. We have put out a moratorium on no more Family Dollar or Dollar stores in Fayetteville. Now, okay. Last but not least, I just want to say that people are asking, well, the Rite Aid was converted into a Dollar Tree. Okay, when the building existed, if we have very little control about what goes into it, if it's occupied as is. The Rite Aid on Banks Crossing has just been purchased by a company that is going to tear it down, and they are going to put a high-end Valvoline oil change. Listen. We reviewed the concept plan, and this is a beautifully architecturally designed facility, and we think that it's better than putting it in a dollar store. Thank you. I've been told I'm out of time. If those who's on live streaming would like to give me a call, telephone number is 770-856-3271, and you can talk to me directly. Thank you.
Of course, the mayor will be here for those who are here. He'll be here a little bit longer after the meeting and take your questions. But he posed an interesting, well, first of all, he's a wonderful mayor. Thank you. Thank you for your service. But also, interesting dynamic, he is up for re-election. In addition to the mayor being up for re-election, we also have 2 city council seats that are open. Well, we have one that's coming open, I believe, because he's not running again. And we do have, so it's a blue city. And we need those who are interested in running. We really do need you, and we will help you any way that we can to make sure that you have a successful campaign. And if you want to be part of this progress that's happening in Fayetteville, it's exciting. And Mr. Mayor, congratulations on upping your revenue, because even though we don't live in the city of Fayetteville, you will have so many tax dollars coming your way. So thank you. Thank you so much for your service. All right, our next speaker is going to be our Georgia State Representative, Representative Derrik Jackson, who represents District 64, and is going to give us the highlights of what happened. What happened this year?
Good morning, Dim. Good morning, Dim. Good morning. First off, Mayor Johnson did a phenomenal job. This is the reason why we need to re-elect him this year, because of the leadership and the vision. Woo. And you know I am there. You tell me what you need to help you knock on doors. I'm used to that. Used to knocking on doors and raising money. But first off, I'd like to say good morning to you all, because this was a very interesting legislative session. And normally you all would see me in my bow tie, but as I was about to, do my bow tie, my wife said, "Baby, go relax. Put your polo shirt on and your sport coat, because I've heard you so far. I've done 4 town hall meetings. And every time I had that bow tie, it just sort of possessed me, because I get mad. It reminds me that I'm on the floor. And my good friend Virgil knows exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, I pressed my button so many times the Speaker of the House stopped calling on me. So I had to do Virgil. I got smart. I did parliamentary inquiry. You can't refuse that. That's right. So it's good to know Robert Rules. So let me share this in a more story-like, and then I want to yield most of my time asking and answering your questions, because that's where it really helps me personally and professionally. So we started off this legislative session rather quietly, and it was sort of like an agreement between the Senate chambers to start off the legislative session quietly, and because we were about to host the largest event in the world. Y'all know what that event was? The Super Bowl. And so we wanted to show the world, the 114 million folks that watch the Super Bowl, that we do have some sense. But you all know what took place after February 3rd. That the quietness, or the quiet before the storm, the dam broke open. And this one was a little bit strange, because prior to the session, our caucus got together, we had our strategy meetings, and then we had the leadership strategy meetings and things of that nature. And we said, okay, this is gonna be Governor Kemp's first session. He probably tiptoe in, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we were wrong. We were grossly wrong, because we found ourselves, instead of talking about what we typically would discuss, education, healthcare, rural Georgia, metro Atlanta, tax bills. We were talking more around cultural and social issues. Things typically that, at least during the short time I've been there, it was like the third rail you just did not touch. And Governor Deal, although I disagree with Governor Deal on a lot of things, but one of the things that he did not do, he did not touch that third rail. You cannot become the best state to do business for 6 years and touch that third rail. And the reason why we know this to be true, just ask North Carolina and Virginia and Louisiana and a few other states when they touched that third rail. North Carolina in particular, when they were discussing bathrooms, a lot of corporations and organizations that were going to do their conventions and big events in North Carolina ended up coming into Georgia. And so we were like the recipients of a couple of billions of dollars because North Carolina touched that third rail. So after February 3rd, Governor Kemp and his merry people decided to touch the third rail. And it was very interesting because one of the third rails that he touched, and I'm sure you all are aware, is House Bill 481. We already have settled law. It's called Roe v. Wade, 1973. It's a federal government law, right? When the state is trying to get into the federal government business, you're going to have a problem. It's called lawsuits. And you're going to have all these outside organizations and media attention. And so House Bill 481 started off very egregious, vile bill. But then it started going between both the chambers, the House and the Senate. And by the time it came back, this bill was so disgusting. And to the point, it's not even talking about removing choices and rights from women, but it started talking, you started having men in the well telling a female representative what a menstrual cycle is. You started having, anybody in here a CPA or taxes? So in this bill also allows for you to write off, basically claim a 6-week-old fetus, which is going to be very challenging for you to do because the federal tax and the state tax in the state of Georgia are coupled. We try to introduce some legislation to decouple them because there's some things that we do at the state level that helps you all, and I know taxes are due on Monday. So there are some things that we offer you at the state level that the federal government doesn't recognize. And so to try to put a 6-week-old fetus on your taxes and the federal government doesn't recognize that 6-week-old fetus. Why? Because it doesn't have a social security number, it's not breathing, and so I don't want to get wonky here, but that was part of this legislation. Another part of this legislation is that OBGYNs would be held accountable in reporting. So let's say you go to you can get a pap smear or your annual physical, and your OBGYN realized that something was there but it's no longer there. Now they have to report it. Or the woman would have to get a police report to validate the abortion. So when you read this legislation, I'm sort of nerdy like that. Good. It was gross because it violates everything that we are aware of in terms of the patient and doctor privacy and other laws to help preserve that. And so there's this House Bill 481 sits on Governor Kemp's desk. And I know it was already mentioned that he's going to be in our neck of the woods next Friday, and yours truly is going to be there as well. See, because I realized and found out that when they see you in the audience, they got to be on their best behavior because I have just as much right to stand up and challenge the governor just like anybody else, right? And bring truth to power in that way. So I will be there. I will be there on next Friday in attendance. Because that's what they invited myself. I pay my $20. You're going to be in my neck of the woods, and that's District 64, right, Virgil?
Yes.
So I'm going to be there. So I may be the only Democrat inside, but it'll be great to see a lot of Democrats outside to let Governor Kemp know that we are watching him. It was also already mentioned, as Virgil already shared with you all, that our number one constitutional responsibility in the General Assembly is to pass a budget. House Bill 31 is that budget. Now, I've watched in 3 years that this budget, and this is a good problem to have here, Mayor, the budget went from $23.7 billion in 2016. This year, we just passed $27.544. Now, can you imagine expanding the budget $4 billion in 3 years? You can do a Taj Mahal, right? You really get some oohs and ahs then. But the reason why I voted no for the very first time for the budget, because it was egregious to see in this 300-page document. And again, I'm nerdy. I see that they had $2.6 million allocated to Tom Price to tell the state of Georgia if we need medical waivers. Now, if y'all don't know who Tom Price is, let me help you. Why are we giving Tom Price $2.6 million to be our consultant to tell us if we need medical waivers or medical expansion or not? I can go to Professor Google, and Professor Google can tell me that without giving $2.6 million of your tax dollars to a person that I just think doesn't have our best interests at heart. I didn't say that. I'm just saying he didn't have our best interests at heart. But here's the other egregious thing that was the third rail that we experienced in this legislative session. So I co-sponsored along with another colleague House Bill 175, basically to remove the protection of Confederate monument symbols, anything, so that way, from a perspective of allowing and empowering local government, if their citizens go to the mayor and say, we want to change the name of this street or remove this monument that is a symbol of oppression that was erected in only 2 eras, Jim Crow and the Civil Rights, and with the intent. And so we introduced House Bill 175 to remove the protections of the Confederate monuments and symbols. So the other chamber and on the other side of the aisle, they became clever and they introduced Senate Bill 77, which preserves and protects the Confederate monuments and symbols. So which bill you think got through? So Senate Bill 77 got through, but here's, as it went between both chambers, not only it took the power from local government, it tied their hands, it preserved their hands, but then it got clever and they put in there that if you vandalize, now we already got laws about vandalism, right? So they injected some steroids, and so they got real clever, Virgil. It's not once, twice, but it's 3 times as much. And so now you got some civil penalties, but you also got criminal legislation or language in this legislation. So that was egregious as well. Now, Maya Angelou, she said, if they tell you something, please, ma'am, please, sir, believe them. So, women prisoners that are incarcerated, that are expecting mothers today, they have this legislation where they are shackled. And so just think about this. So you have, regardless of where the woman may be, but she's about to become a mother. And you have her shackled, right? And so we introduced some legislation to say, don't shackle. She is the most vulnerable state of her life for her and the child that she's carrying. So since you all are pro-life, right? So let's have some dignity. So that went back and forth, and so this legislation is on Kim's desk. It's going to be interesting if he signs it or not to remove those shackles. But I will encourage you all to call 404-656-1776. That's Governor Kemp's office, and tell him and his staff that we're watching. If you're going to be about dignity and quality of life, then let the legislation speak the values that you say that you exhibit. Now, if I was a betting person, and I'm not, because I'm not at a casino yet, we're gonna maybe we'll put a casino over there. But I know you're streaming, so we're not. That's right. So here's another egregious bill that was introduced. House Bill 444, dual enrollment. Now, I only been there for a short time, but you know, being mentored and I got Virgil on speed dial. It's amazing how good bills in the beginning, in the infancy stage, could turn bad if not ugly. So dual enrollment. I mean, Georgia's been doing exceptionally well with the lottery since 1993 and Hope Scholarship. So dual enrollment came about maybe about 13, 14 years ago. And it started off, you know, with a good concept to allow for high schoolers to get some college credits for those who qualify and develop a partnership with some neighboring colleges in the area basically on tax dollars, on our nickel, right? And so it helps mitigate costs when they go off to college, they get credit, you know, they get an opportunity to get a feel for college environment, etc. Well, House Bill 444, dual enrollment, removes some of the funding from dual enrollment. Now this, in the last 12 years, this program has grown 180%. The partnerships between some of our high schools, like the 5 high schools that we have in Fayette County, along with some of the colleges, has been remarkable. And those children are taking advantage and leveraging dual enrollment program, which is the reason why it has grown 180%. Well, House Bill 444, as it was going between both chambers, those who are anti-dual enrollment put 2 pieces of languages in this legislation. One, it removed the transportation. Now you're probably saying, okay, why is that important? Because parents that still have school-age children, we're not going to stop in the middle of the day to go and pick up our child from high school to take them over to the local college, you know, for example. So my child goes to Sandy Creek, and so it would be hard for my wife and I to stop what we're doing at midday, pick her up from the high school, then take her over to Georgia Military College. So without that transportation piece. So that's one. Number 2, you're going to reduce funding and say that if you use your HOPE dollars while you're in high school, it reduces the amount of HOPE dollars that you may be eligible for when you graduate. Which is incredulous when you start to think about it, because it's like penalizing a child that's aspiring and decided that they want to take the path to go to college. Because not every child is going to have that path to college. Then, insult to injury, during his campaign, he started talking about, oh, I'm going to be the healthcare governor. So Senate Bill 106 is Medicaid waivers. Now I know that, on social media they were saying, well, the Democrats under the Gold Dome are anti-Medicaid waivers. It wasn't that we were anti-Medicaid waivers. We want Medicaid expansion. Here's the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, that Medicaid expansion is the right route to take versus Medicaid waivers. Because there's about 685,000 Georgians with little to no health care in the state of Georgia. If you do Medicaid expansion, you're going to mitigate two significant things that's adding pressure to our healthcare system. One, you're going to be able to give access to healthcare to the 685,000, because that number continues to grow. And you will shore up those hospitals in rural Georgia that are basically on life support. Because if those hospitals in rural Georgia start to close, that's going to add pressure to our nearby hospitals, right? We just expanded Piedmont Fayette, right? So that's the reason why we were pushing for Medicaid expansion. Medicaid waiver only going to take care of 240,000. So what do you tell the other 400,000 plus that you're leaving behind? See, so I grew up in the concept, as we did in the military, you don't leave no one behind. And so Medicaid waiver only addresses 240,000, Medicaid expansion addresses 685,000. This is simple math. So then they said, well, we don't have enough money. Well, I just shared with you all that in three years, we grew the budget $4 billion. And I'm not talking about what we get from the federal government. I'm just talking about what we're doing at the state level. We expanded this $4 billion in 3 years. So we have the dollars, especially for a state of this size. Discussion, while we're talking about money, House Bill 316, the voting machines. Now that is another contentious one. Now this one is already law. See, here's the other thing about this legislative process that I'm continuing to become a very good student. See, so we're now in the fourth quarter. I know it's not football season, but I'm still there. So we're now in the fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter basically is the governor has 40 days after a signee died. Right? So now all these 342 bills, 244 came from the House, 98 came from the Senate. So these bills are sitting on Governor Kemp's desk. However, there were some bills he quietly signed already into law. He didn't wait 40 days, right? And one of the bills he signed into law was House Bill 316, because House Bill 316 is $150 million of tax dollars that will be invested to get these new machines to the tune of about 27,000 machines. Now, you may say, okay, why is this so important to you? Because subject matter experts came to Georgia around cybersecurity. And we sort of know something a little bit about cybersecurity. And they said, your best solution to help preserve every Georgian's right at the ballot box will cost you $30 million. Now, it wasn't that $30 million and, trying to go with a cheaper solution, because we really don't think the $150 million is the right market number. Everywhere we look, we take $1 million too. But more importantly, we looked at making sure that when you go and vote, that the integrity at the ballot box was the most critical factor. And so that $30 million versus the $150 million was egregious for two reasons. Because the individual, the vendor of the $150 million solution is now in the administration. So there's this thing called conflict of interest that we used to, if Pete was in here, we were talking about rule of law earlier, but conflict of interest. So that was the first one, right? You're going to reward someone that assisted you $150 million. That's the first reason why I had a problem with this bill. The second reason why is that it does not enhance your confidence in our voting system. And I think that's priority one. Because for those of us who are military veterans and those of us who have children that serve in this great country in the military, when they go and give the oath of office, is to protect and defend the democracy of this country against foreign and domestic. So when you start stealing, let me rephrase that. When you start maneuvering what you do to win an election, that's problematic. Because the other bill that he already signed into law was the purging bill. And the purging bill is what was utilized during his time as Secretary of State, right? And so we try to change that law, such as remove exact match, which negatively impacted women. Because typically, women are the only ones who change their name during their lifetime. And even if you hyphenated your name or don't hyphenate your name or have a very creative way of spelling your name, right? That exact match kicked you out of the system, okay? And so then we start having a problem with the voting. So, and then my last two, and then I would love to entertain questions. Senate Bill 15 is another one that I strongly, when you call Governor Kemp's office, to say, no thank you. And this is, it's titled School and Safety Security. Now again, this started off as a very good measure, but by the time it went between both chambers, it ended up creating a school to prison pipeline. Let me explain. There was a time for most of us, I can remember probably the first time I got some wood was by my principal. Now I'm not suggesting that we go back to that, but I think I turned out okay, right? Because there was a partnership between the school and my mother. Senate Bill 15 removes the authority for a school administrator as well as parents to apply the discipline to a child, depending on if someone identified as violent behavior. If it's referred to as violent behavior, which is a very subjective term, then you have to call law enforcement. This SRO was never placed in our schools to become the disciplinarian. That was not the original intent of SRO. But now, Senate Bill 15, when you're bored, take a look at it. Because now, the school administrator, if it's a violent behavior, now have to call law enforcement. So what happens when you call law enforcement? You just started the pipeline. Because you just gave little Johnny or little Susie the first introduction to dealing with law enforcement. The parent is at work. You don't even have in this legislation to call the parent. The school administrator have to call law enforcement. Law enforcement shows up, talking to little Johnny or little Susie. They're scared. All they had was an exchange between, a difficult exchange between them and their friends, and someone perceived it as a violent behavior. So this is a very egregious bill that started off good, talking about security, and for the state to add more things to make sure that we don't have what took place in Parkland here in Georgia. So it started off as a good bill, and it turned bad, if not ugly, towards the end of the legislative session. The other thing I want to briefly address, I know there was a lot of conversation around the Atlanta airport takeover. And because of you all, I got several emails and texts and phone calls. So hopefully you received the special edition that I just sent out by way of email yesterday. But for those who have not, let me just share with you that our caucus never understood why you want to take over the most efficient, the most effective airport, not in the nation, but in the world for the last 23 years. My mother taught me a long time ago, bless her soul, she said, if it's not broke, there's nothing to fix. Now, just like any other major organization, you're going to have a few bad apples. And I think, you know, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, she's addressing those bad apples. But that doesn't warrant for the state to want to come over and take over the airport. So while this bill was, the Senate Bill 131 was going back and forth between chambers, we got clever and we started adding other bills on top of it. They call it the Christmas tree. And we put so much weight on this bill, it suffocated the bill. Because we said, well, wait a minute. If you're only coming after the Atlanta airport, well, we got other municipal airports in Georgia. What about them? Let's take them over too. So that got them upset. Then we said, wait a minute, because it's germane, let's add the jet fuel tax. Let's add this to the bill too. So we put that on the bill. Now you know that got Delta and all the airlines, Johnny, upset. And then we said, wait a minute, this is not enough. We were talking about mobility in rural Georgia. Let's add this to the bill because it's germane, because we're talking about mobility and transportation. Let's add that on there too. Now, these bills are still alive, ladies and gentlemen. So we defeated it in 2019, but it's going to come back. And the reason why we know it's going to come back, because the senator, the author of this bill, I'm not going to mention any names, but just take a look at Senate Bill 131. The reason why, the genesis of this bill, because his father-in-law wanted to get a contract at the airport. So he's going to introduce a bill to make sure that, how do you say it? He said, no one entity should have that kind of authority. And this bill should be able to. We really thought this was like an April Fool's joke. You're going to introduce a bill at the airport because your father-in-law didn't get a contract. Okay, all right. So go figure. And the last item, and then I would love to, Madam Chair, if I have an opportunity to answer any questions. So, Georgia can do phenomenal things when it's time talking about growing industries, right? If you take what, you know, in 2005, the filming industry was about 300 million. We roughly did about 100 shows, filming and shows here in Georgia. Last year, we crossed the threshold of 9.5 billion. So to go from 300 million to 9.5 billion, and we also had about 455 shows filmed right here in Georgia. So we know how to grow industries through tax incentives and breaks and things of that nature. Marijuana. Now, I just want to make sure I'm clear. We're going to start this industry, but it's for medicinal purposes only. On live streaming, medicinal purposes only. We're not getting into retail, and definitely not recreation. But we have about 8,800 Georgians right now on the register list, and they have to break the law basically to help relieve their medical needs. And there's empirical evidence around marijuana. Some people say it's a miracle, but around marijuana. So House Bill 213 allows for farmers to grow hemp for CBD oil. And then House Bill 324, where the state, we set up 10 different licenses, so that way it helps the marijuana cultivation and distribution for medicinal purposes only. But these licenses are pretty expensive, ladies and gentlemen, to the tune of $10 million. Wow. So we try to get those numbers down so everyone can participate in this good monopoly, right? Because what happens if families in Georgia that needs this to help them from a medical standpoint don't have to break the law and go over to Denver and California and Canada or Seattle. So we want to grow it right here. We have two partner schools. We have UGA and Fort Valley State that's going to help us cultivate this, but we also have 10 licenses that's going to help this as well. So I would love to open up for Q&A, but like I said, it was 342 pieces of legislation. It's hundreds of more, but I just wanted to give you the most contentious bills.
Thanks for being here, Representative Jackson. So let me understand you on the bill about purging. The governor that was the Secretary of State, that was the one that purged people, is now saying that it doesn't want it in the hands of the Secretary of State, so we want to make it the governor, or a law that you can purge people that haven't voted in 2 consecutive cycles. So it was left up to the Secretary of State's office where they can do it or they don't have the authority to do it. So now it's going to be a law in Georgia that it absolutely now has to be done?
That's correct. So during the debate and discussion, so the question was, if I heard you correctly, that the individual that was the Secretary of State that did the purging is now the governor that's going to make it a law to help purge. Yes. But this is what happened. So he used because when the Supreme Court struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, it really left all the states to start to really create their own pre-clearance, if you will, right? And so there's some legislation, part of this legislation in this measure expanded from, if you don't vote consecutively, so instead of years, it's now 9 years, okay? So we went from 7 to 9. He said, okay, I meet y'all halfway. So now you got to be able to at least vote once within 9 years. And then remove the exact match. And the exact matches was really the hammer that he used to really negatively impact the women, which, like I said, is about 72%. And so when you look at the 1.14 million that were purged while he was Secretary of State, we removed the factors that he used to purge that 1.14 Georgians. The other thing that we added in there too was keep the weekend, Saturday, Sunday voting, 3 weeks advance or early voting. So we preserved that as well. But yeah, so we really tried to move the needle in the right direction. So people don't hijack the election. Okay? Thoughts on it? Hey, Don.
Question about, with the heartbeat bill passing, some people have talked about our movie industry, film industry. Do you think that's going to have an impact in terms of the economy?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I really don't know, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Because if history repeats itself, it could, right? Let's look at what happened down there. The movie industry moved despite this tax breaks and incentives they were getting down in Louisiana. So they can, you already have 2 states, Michigan and Indianapolis, already, telling the movie industry, hey, come up here. So we're working really, really hard to convince, because of all the investments. I mean, think about Pinewood, right? I'm just using that example. We're talking about over $1 billion of investment between Pinewood Studios and Pinewood Fords. And the amount of movies that we produce. A lot of the actors and actresses are calling Georgia home now. And we're trying to really close the loop and get post-production. Once we get post-production, then you can film right here and not have to ship it back to Los Angeles or up to New York, right? And that's the reason why we're trying to grow. I know the mayor already mentioned data center, you know, Facebook being one, but we're looking at other data centers because that way it helps us facilitate and grow the movie industry, and because that's what they're asking us to do. So prayerfully, you know, we say, hey, listen, you know, don't leave us. If you're thinking about leaving us, give us an opportunity in 2022. We'll come back strong, and we'll make sure that he's a one-term governor.
Yeah.
Okay?
Can we talk about Superior Court judges in Fayette County? Were you successful?
Yes. 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 Thank you, Kelly. So there was some legislation that I passed, either on a local level, but the Superior Court down here in our area, Fayette, Spalding, Griffin area, was experiencing a backlog. And so we felt that there was a need to add one more. And so hopefully when we get through this particular step of the process, that we have a candidate that's ready. We have a candidate that's ready. We have a candidate that's going to be ready. So it's one thing for us to create these opportunities, you know, because we tend to always think about the legislative branch of our government. We clearly see the failure of the executive branch at both at the federal and state level, but we tend to forget about the judicial. And so this is one of the things that, you know, we as legislators saw fit. And another bill that I passed that created 4 part-time, not Superior Court, but the one below that. No, not magistrate. State court. Thank you. So I created 4 state court positions. That's and so it's we've been trying to do a lot around the court system, and those are the 2 bills that I was able to get passed.
I just want to make a comment. California is trying to relure the movie industry back to California. And if Pinewood is affected by the protest against the House bill, that will vastly hurt the city of Fayetteville and Fayette County. And I mean tremendously. And it's just ironic that camp is going to be at Studio Cafe at Pinewood on next Friday. That's purposeful. Show up. Gotta show up.
That's right. We definitely have to show up, and your point is exactly right, because there's still time for us to influence.
Right.
House Bill 481, he did not immediately sign into law like he did House Bill 316. So, again, 404-656-1776. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know the frustration is, and I've seen it over and over again, how bills quietly get, by the time it gets to the public, the ingredients have already been put on the table, and it's mixing, and then it's baked. And by the time you find out, it's almost too late to intercede or have some influence on the decision making. So where would it be our most opportunity to be successful in influencing the decision makers that we have a considerable number of constituency interested in going the opposite direction than they are proposing? I would ask you, particularly at the committee level.
So I think you raised 3 good points. One, how to stay engaged. And so you can do that. Hopefully you all are receiving my newsletter. If you're not, just go to voteforderrickjackson.com, give it about 5 seconds, and then put your information in there, like your email, and then you will automatically start receiving my newsletter. So that's one. The other is, I always suggest and strongly suggest that you all, while we're in session, follow us. So follow us by way of going to the website, house.ga.gov. A lot of the committee hearings, as well as what we do on the floor, stream. And the Senate senate.ga.gov is the same way. And so that's the second thing. Monitor both of those websites while we're in session. And then the third, and most importantly, as you continue to read the AJC and the news, and you hear something, because like I said, we're overwhelmed with trying to track all these bills, and they start changing the looks and face of these bills. Give us a call. A lot of you all send me a text while we're in session, or an email. And so I would say it's a partnership, but more importantly, follow those websites, house.ga.gov and senate.ga.gov, and then keep that conversation going.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We're represented well. We have two awesome leaders in our community, and we want to keep them there. So make sure that you support them any way that you can. Now we're at the end of the meeting now. Are there any quick announcements? NAACP, is there a meeting? Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to present to you this morning that we are preparing to get our young people in charge of their financial responsibility, and responsible young adults. And from ages, let's say from 9th graders to 12th graders on Saturday, the 27th of April at the library from 10 o'clock a.m. until 2 p.m. We have an economic empowerment workshop with the banking institution. I see Brandon is here, Fidelity Bank. We've got investment gurus and people to talk about wealth building. The theme of it is Path to Financial Freedom, so that we can prepare our young people with mindsets of becoming investors instead of always being a consumer populist. So I would appreciate if you want to see one of these. I have a few flyers on the 27th from 10 until 3 p.m. We have a lunch for all the students.
Are you recruiting from the high school?
Yes, I'm recruiting from the high school.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Daryl.
I have an announcement that on Thursday, the 18th at 6 p.m., all my team, my voter team, and anyone who else is interested, please meet us to go over the pared down, viable PERS list for our plan of action to re-register these persons and contact them. Because we went from over 1,000 pages of PERS people down to a viable list. We had over 10,000 people on the PERS list for Fayette County. 10,000.
Wow.
10,000.
And what day?
On Thursday at 6 p.m. at headquarters.
At headquarters. Be there. Also, I just want to remind everyone that the link on our website, www.ga.feddems.org, we now have the Promise Place link live. If you'd like to go on there and see how you can help donate and bring them at the next meeting. Also, is there any other announcement? Yes, Ken.
You mentioned the NAACP. I thought Alice was going to make the announcement.
I did too.
But we have, actually, if you want to see Mayor Johnson again.
And we always do.
He's also going to be at the NAACP. In fact, we're meeting at his church, the Flat Rock AME Church, at 4 o'clock today. And we also have another person speaking there, also who's going to be running for office, Mr. Darrell Langford.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's running for city council, yes.
So he'll be there also.
Great, thank you. Also, don't forget, we have some sellable items over there in the right corner there. We have t-shirts, we have hats, we have water bottles. You can see Garrett. And if you'd like to pay your dues, then you can see Lorraine in the back there, and she'd be happy to assist you with that. Next meeting is going to be Saturday, May 11th, day before Mother's Day, starting at 9 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance, and you have a good day.